I think we as a species right now are uniquely hypnotized by the idea that the technologies that we use are the like modern version, or like the most important version, or the things that will always be that way. And I just contest that in every single form, because I think, like, if humanity lasts 100 million years, then we're primitive. We were in the first million years, or in the first 2 million years, if it lasts 100 million years. So language has to evolve over those 100 million years. Intelligence has to evolve over those 100 million years. Technology has to evolve. Life will evolve. Biology will evolve. And we have taken incredible tools, right, from our past. If 500,000 years ago, we had the first tool makers using sticks and stones and things like that, and now we have tool makers of all different kinds making multi-D printing and AI and different kinds of information technology, quantum computing, all the technology, just all of it. Just take all of Earth as its own form of technology. Then once again, we're in this most early phase of this, and what we're using to try to express to this new technology who we are and what we are is actually now antiquated tools. Because the moment you introduce AI large language models into the linguistics of people, the language has already been distorted. It's not the same language anymore, because now people are going to those tools. They're not speaking themselves. The tools themselves know more of the language than any one speaker, period. So when we're in this situation of isolated individuals, writers, thinkers, speakers, content creators, you now have a tool like ChatGPT that is creating more content, if you look at it, than any one content creator. So this one speaker of these languages is now representing how much of the language that's being expressed and spoken amongst the people. We have fundamentally already altered in its totality what we knew language to be. And all the spoken language have already gotten a massive update because of the nature of these tools, which is like a quintessential example of how fast these things actually evolve. And so I think, when we look at that, we need to move beyond the idea that we're at the pinnacle place and that we've introduced these tools to understand us at our pinnacle moment, and to realize that, no, we have barely the rudiments necessary to make any of these things even work. We have barely enough understanding to have any of these things even work. The large language models occurred because of assumptions that were put into scientific tests, and they proved to create an outcome that, in quotes, worked. But we don't even know what the ultimate outcomes of those are yet. It's still so early. So I think of it like this is the beginning of the nature of that evolution, and we now need to look at what is coming in the future because of this, not how something has been displaced from the past. All of that has already been transcended. And that means everything. That means our understanding of intelligence, language, culture, society, nation, literally everything has already been disrupted and updated because of that.
And I think it's really that language conception is so important, because when you're a human who goes to a job and stuff, it's really easy to think that human language is a language. And other things have communication patterns. There might be a language maybe, but they're able to communicate with intention, like bird calls, whatever. It hasn't been codified. But when you think of it in a way higher sense, like cosmologically, there is Earth, and Earth maybe has let's add a little bit of anthropomorphization to it. It has a bit of intention for life, and maybe it's the creation of artificial life. It goes through all these processes, and at the end of all these processes, not even the end, part of the processes is the creation of life. We know for a fact that DNA is a language, right? Like the movement of energy within a biome and an ecosystem it's a language. It is flows and changes from areas that there's an intelligence in the system. So when you think of it that way, it's like Earth has created, or is in the process of creating, an artificial intelligence that will be able to read the code of itself, like of life. And I think that is going to be a refractionary point. Maybe that is something to do with the development of this higher language that we're talking about. But when AI, or us with AI itself, can then essentially read the code of the expression of life itself through the cosmos, I think that will allow us to take on that higher level of the intentional direction to some capacity that is intrinsically part of this.
We have an opportunity as a species to increase in our capacity of perception, awareness, and intelligence to a level that we have never even previously imagined or conceived because of this. And while you were talking, I was thinking and imagining a description of a tool that doesn't just label in such broad strokes like we were taught to do, where it doesn't just say like, oh, grass, lawn, tree, rose flower, but you actually understand that rose, that specific species, everything about it, and that unique expression of that plant creating that flower at that time as a unique individual life form of it. We don't have that ability in our language now, but with the kind of tool that we're talking about, that's how it would understand that plant. It wouldn't just see a forest of pine trees. It would see billions of individual unique trees that were all part of a kind of collective, all in a different location and in a different state of health and in a different state of life and a different part of growth and a different age. And we just look at it and go, pine tree. Right. And that's what I'm trying to say of how broad stroke.
It's like it could almost see, like Michael Garfield from the Future Fossils podcast talks about this sometimes. Like if you were to look at life through the perspective of DNA, it's all DNA. Like there aren't the boundaries that we think they are. So just like a honeybee, because of its ability to use different primary colors that we have, they can see into the electronic spectrums, the ultraviolet spectrums. They can see the blue color of the mycelium under the soil and the sugars in it as they fly over. For us, that's like not possible from a human conception. So AI, if done correctly and able to go into these things, will look, just as you say, into a forest and see life fundamentally, the flows of life, and the changes of life within life flowing through the system of life, and then how that can be applied to the other pattern of life that may be looking at these life patterns to figure out new patterns of life that could be useful for its pattern of life.
Yeah, and I think that's where AI starts to learn on its own, not just be taught by what I think is an unbelievably coarse data set. Like, well, yes, 6 billion or 600 billion or even 6 trillion lines of data represents a tremendous amount of information. The information itself is unbelievably coarse in the way that we are the ones that have prescribed it or described it. But when you start to put all of it together, you give this tool this capacity to interrelate information that we've never been able to. And not only that, you give it the capacity to model on that information trillions of times a second, collectively trillions and trillions of times a second.